All right, boys and girls, we are going to continue reviewing test number 3. For this problem, it's asking you to match the fraction to its equivalent decimal. Now, as I look at some of these, we know from our experience in 5th grade, some of these just in our minds. We've got those memorized, and that's a really good thing. So when I look at this one, I always tell kids it's just like what you just said. If I were to say 1/10, and I look over in this column, how would I say this decimal? I would read that as 1/10. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put A in right away. As I look over some of these other fractions and decimals, I'm going to skip and do the ones I know for sure. When we look at 1/2, we know that 1/2, this is another one of those that we just have memorized. 1/2 is equivalent to 5/10. We've worked with that, we know that, so I'm going to put in C right now. 5/10, if I were to write that as a fraction, it's 5/10. We know that is 1/2. Okay? If I look at these other decimals, I'm going to just take a minute, I'm going to look at D. We've talked about that in terms of money. If I were to write that as a fraction, that would be 25/100. And then looking at that fraction, I know I can simplify that. I know that 25, if your numerator goes into your denominator, the greatest common factor is that number. So I'm going to divide 25 by 25, and I would get 1, and 100 divided by 25, and I would get 4. So again, I am going to say that 25/100 is equivalent to the fraction 1/4. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to put D wherever that is. There we go. And then I'm going to spend a little bit of time on 1/5. If I were looking at 1/5 as a fraction, I look at that and we know that when we're trying to convert fractions to decimals, according to place value, I know that the first one is going to be something over 10, the next one is going to be something over 100, and the next one is going to be something over 1,000. As I look at this denominator of 5, I know I can easily convert that to something over 10. So I'm going to put 1/5 is equal to something over 10, and then I look at that and I think to myself, what did I do to the denominator to get 10? I took it times 2. So I would do the same thing to the numerator, and I would take that times 2, and I would get 2/10. As I look at that, where did I go with that?
1/5 and 2/10.
1/5 and 2/10. So as I look over here, oops, now I've got
You have a
this.
dot in there.
I am going to put B. All right? And that is how you would complete those problems, or already did. All right, Mrs. Lund.
Well, I actually didn't even need to erase Mrs. Yost's work. Here they're asking us to write 1/5 as a decimal, and she just showed you how to do that, all right? And we know that 5 can be made to have 10 on the bottom. If we multiply 5 by 2 to get 10, we have to do the same thing to the numerator, and 1 times 2 equals 2. So 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10. All right, and then how do we write 2/10 as a decimal?
0.2.
That's right. All right, 2/10 as a decimal is written as 0.2, which would bring us to letter C. All right, 0.2.
All right, again, we're going to convert this fraction 4/5 into a decimal number. As we look at that, I know I've got a denominator of 5, and as we said before, when you're converting that to a decimal, you think to yourself something over 10, something over 100, something over 1,000. We know that this is going to be an easy fraction to convert to something over 10. Okay, and then what did I take 5 times to get 10? I took that times 2, so I take my numerator times 2, and I get 8/10. When I look over at our answers, here's 8/100, 45/100, here is 8/10 and 6/10. My answer would be C.
In question number 8, they are asking us to find the value of y, all right? right, and choose the correct decimal or fraction that goes along with it. So what we're going to do is we are going to start on 0, and we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So each one of those lines represents a tenth. All right, so if we're on 0 and we go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this y would be equivalent to 5 tenths. All right, now, don't look at the answers, but what's another name for 5 tenths?
1/2.
Correct. Another name for 5 tenths is 1/2. Those are equivalent fractions. All right, so let's come over here now and let's look at our answer choices. Now, as a decimal, we would write 5 tenths as 0.5. That means we can cross this answer out and this answer out. So now let's look at these two fraction options. Does either one of those equal 1/2?
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
one?
B.
That's right, letter B. All right, 7/14, all right, is also equivalent to 1/2. All right, and we know 3/8 is not, because it would have to be 4/8, all right, to be equivalent to 1/2, and so that also is not a correct answer choice. All right, so 7/14 would be equivalent to what this number represents, 5 tenths, all right, and that would be the equivalent value.